Out of the way, you!
So I recently watched Elio because I figured someone had to with how little marketing Disney and Pixar gave it, and just like everyone who actually saw it has been saying, it's fine. It tells a pretty by-the-numbers story about a boy befriending aliens that isn't great, but not bad either. There were several pacing issues and underdeveloped characters, but the main selling point is honestly well done. The relationship between Elio and Gordon was really touching and genuine. They have a nice little storyline about wanting to feel accepted for their differences and developing a better understanding with their families. Elio himself is a fairly relatable character who goes through a nice little arc where he learns to appreciate his life on Earth while healing from the loss of his parents. And he also helps Gordon bond with his estranged father. It leads to something of a twist at the end that's actually pretty clever. I won't spoil it for anyone who hasn't seen it, which I hope lessens over time, but it makes for a pretty satisfying bookend to the story and worthy of a viewing. Overall, it's a nice little family movie that's worth watching and supporting. It's far from being among Pixar's best works, but it's a serviceable film that should be getting some attention. So why isn't it getting any? I know there are YouTubers who've made a review of this by now, but not to the point that it's really getting people talking about it. Honestly, I don't even think anyone watching this video was aware of Elio before I brought it up. It's no mystery by now that Disney and Pixar has absolutely no faith in this movie at all. Like, there was no effective advertising for this movie at all. I kept trying to find something that showed the studio doing more to promote it, but I literally found nothing. That is just the stupidest logic I can think of. Why put money into making a movie if you're not going to promote it properly? If you have no faith in the project at all, you shouldn't make it in the first place. Why wasn't Elio given any sort of proper promotion? Well, you could argue that it comes down to a number of factors, but I think the biggest reason why is the most obvious. It's because Disney was too busy promoting this garbage.
Stitch is back, alright.
Lilo and Stitch, rated PG, May 23rd. Get tickets now.
The marketing for Lilo and Stitch 2025 has been overwhelming and obnoxious. You cannot go literally 10 minutes without it being shoved down your throat in some shape or form. The merchandising, the trailers, the YouTube ads, the terrible green screen shorts, that grating Stitch is back jingle. There was simply no escaping the advertisement this movie was getting. And I guess it did its job because the movie ended up becoming one of the highest grossing of 2025. You would think we were through the worst of it after Snow White 2025 bombed horribly. But nope, this live-action remake just reinvigorated Disney to make more of this garbage. And it's honestly kinda weird because Snow White was given some pretty solid marketing with how confident Disney was that it would make them money. Oops. I guess they didn't count on the lead actresses being thoroughly detestable people, and the identity politics and refusal to hire dwarves certainly didn't help. Lilo and Stitch 2025 didn't have as much controversy surrounding it leading to its release, only focusing on how cutesy and adorable live-action Stitch is, which doesn't align with his character at all, so it didn't drive as many people away from it, allowing it to rank in the numbers that Snow White couldn't. Which leads me back to my point on Elio. This movie was not given any proper marketing while Lilo and Stitch and even Snow White were given a lot more attention by the studio, because the way things are now, the industry only seems to care about sequels and remakes of familiar and more reliably bankable IPs, instead of putting more faith in anything that tries to be different. Really think about it. When was the last time you saw something big that wasn't based on a nostalgic property? Ultimately, companies will go with what they think will make them the most money, and the movie-going masses are the ones who decide what makes them the most money. And many moviegoers want to see something they're familiar with because anything different is completely alien to them. The MCU alone is a giant adaptation of comics and cartoons that resonate with nostalgic minds from the 80s and 90s. And we also have a 7th fucking Jurassic Park movie coming out despite no one with more than 2 brain cells wanting it. All those cartoons you grew up with, they were given movies for Hollywood to bank on. And the Disney classics? Well, that's just self-explanatory. Numerous sequels and reboots of things that were given satisfactory conclusions because they're too lazy to come up with something else. Everything is some sort of continuation or renewal of an established franchise. And that's what ultimately seems to make Hollywood the most money, because American audiences, and in some cases Chinese audiences, just can't help themselves. And anything that isn't those two things is left to fall into obscurity, like what happened with Elio. It's because sequels and remakes are all the rage and no one wants to see anything original or at least try to be something refreshing and different because it's safer to pander to stupid people. And I know this because this wasn't the first time this happened. Hell, it's not even the first time this happened in the course of a year. Last year in late 2024, there were 2 particular movies coming out that you might recognize. Transformers 1 and Moana 2. And take a good guess which one made money while the other underperformed at the box office. Yep, the Disney-branded slot that exploits nostalgia from stupid people for easy money. Now the thing about Transformers 1 is that it was also based on a nostalgic toy line which was adapted into a series of cartoons and movies. But the problem arises in how the movie was marketed. It made the premise come across as somewhat alien to longtime fans of Transformers because of how it portrayed characters like Optimus Prime and Megatron. It looked pretty off-tone from what you'd expect from the series, really lighthearted and upbeat with a spin on the origin story of the cast. But looks can be deceiving as it was actually a really fun movie, doing something refreshing with the source material and having a unique take on the backstory of Optimus Prime and Megatron. It was a surprisingly really good movie, which I'm actually working on a video for, by the way. But because the movie lacked that sense of familiarity combined with the lackluster marketing, it bombed and plans for a potential trilogy were cancelled. Moana 2, on the other hand, ended up succeeding in spite of being sloppy and boring, because it didn't have to do anything fresh due to the familiarity of the brand. All they had to do was go, hey look, all your favorite characters are back, and that was enough to get people invested. Honestly, it's been like that for years now. 2019, 2018, and 2017. All the biggest movies of those years were either remakes or entries into established franchises. The moviegoers of America have been trained to be retarded monkeys who only respond to recycled ideas and unoriginal content with familiar characters and brands. And 2025 has more of that to come. 28 Days Later, Wicked, Predator, that 7th Jurassic Park movie, Smurfs, Fantastic Four, Happy Gilmore, Freaky Friday, The Conjuring. You're starting to see the picture? Original movies with minor to no ties to nostalgic properties, even if they're good, are lost in the pandering because no one bothers to see them. And if you want to say this is all just a bunch of fear-mongering, all you have to do is actually pay attention because the evidence is blatantly obvious. Back in 2013, Steven Spielberg said that Hollywood would just give up and produce nothing but huge franchise movies, and the future of the movie business would just be nostalgia exploitation. And look at where it is now. The MCU is still churning out content years after the Infinity Saga wrapped up, because just keeping it going will guarantee Marvel and Disney more money. Superman is getting a new reboot by James Gunn in the wake of the DC Universe's complete and utter failure. Disney is trying to turn their one-hit wonders into film trilogies for them to milk more money off of more franchises instead of trying to revive more original ideas like Gigantic. I literally just made a video about how the plague of live-action remakes of animated classics has made its way into DreamWorks. How long until Illumination gets the bright idea to do a live-action remake of Despicable Me? Hollywood doesn't want to tell unique or creative stories. They want to jingle familiar things in our faces like keys in front of a baby. Sequels and remakes are something we should get once in a while. It shouldn't be the only content the industry bothers to put out. And it's a mindset that Hollywood is trying to encourage by shoving reboots, remakes, and sequels down your throat while more refreshing and original content is left to rot in a gutter. And that's what Disney did to Elio. They didn't give it any proper attention because of how it wasn't tied to a familiar brand, but they gave all the marketing and spotlight to their disgusting remake of one of their classic animated movies because the retards are trained to just watch it. I mean, sure, you can argue there were people with actual functioning brains who only saw it out of lingering curiosity, or YouTube reviewers who needed something to cover for their channels, but they're not the ones who made this movie $1 billion like what happened with The Lion King. Alice in Wonderland 2010 came along and used nostalgia to make money off of stupid people, and Disney hasn't stopped doing it since. Elio is the anti-Lilo and Stitch 2025 in every regard, but it got lost because brand recognition is given more attention than something more original. And the fact that the moviegoers of America would rather have a garbage remake over anything that tries to be different is horrible. We're supposed to have more variety in our media, but this variety has been forgotten about as the stupid morons born in the 80s, 90s, and 2000s just want to cling to nostalgic properties and make that the golden standard of the entertainment industry. That should not be allowed to happen. And if anything is going to change, we need to support more original content. Movies that are actually good. Movies that aren't just sequels or remakes or spin-offs. Watch more original IPs instead of just chasing after nostalgia. I know chances are a lot of people aren't gonna come across this video because of how little traction Elio ended up getting, but at least I can make some sort of effort to be above this nonsense by saying, anyone watching this video, go see Elio. Even if it's not great, it's still a nice family movie. One that doesn't butcher a beloved classic while selling colonialist propaganda. It deserves better than the neglect it received from Disney, and giving it a watch is the least we can do to tell the industry, we are sick of your garbage. So, go see Elio. It's a nice movie that actually tries to be different, and that alone is more refreshing than all these sequels and remakes that Disney is set on churning out.